All right, how are you? Dr. C, aka Daniel Koss. Have a special guest today. Very excited to see him. This is Greg Clark from Tecumseh, Oklahoma. How you doing,
What's
Greg?
up, brother?
I'm
I'm
good,
good,
man.
Danny.
I'm
How are you?
good. I'm good, brother. Hey, I tell you what, man. This old cat right here. He sent me a message on LinkedIn just the other, maybe 6 months ago, and I didn't recognize him. I was like, dude, who's this dude stalking me? And so I was like, man, this guy's stalking me. I don't remember this guy. And then he called me. Then he called me Danny, and I knew. Well, if you're calling me Danny, then you must have knew me a long, long time ago. And then he said he used to beat me up on the basketball court at Macomb High School in Macomb, Oklahoma,
You,
1986, 87. And then I went,
yeah.
wow, Greg Clark, you've grown up, my friend.
Yeah, I don't know that I didn't dunk on you or anything. It was just kind of,
I think you were a little shorter than me, weren't you?
I was, man. I didn't have any hair on my face either. So,
Well, nobody could.
um,
We couldn't hang with Wendell Wynn and some of the cats on
no,
our team. So we did
no.
what we could coming off the bench.
Hey, that was pretty fun growing up back in the day. It was, to be able to know that 10 years before what we're getting ready to discuss, we were on a high school basketball and baseball team and a
Hmm.
year apart in classes. And
Yep.
who would have ever thought that something like what we're getting ready to talk about, from 40 years later, here we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's life takes crazy turns, my friend. I haven't been in Macomb, Oklahoma, in probably I don't even know 1987. I left, and I don't think I've been back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just crazy that we meet back up and we have so many similarities and we have so many challenges in our life based on some of the responses that we've done and some of the work that we've done in the Oklahoma City bomber. We're going to get into all that, and man, it's just pretty cool. I think in Macomb, Oklahoma, Macomb High School had a graduating class, if I recollect properly. I think Gray's class was a little bigger than ours, and they actually went on a good senior trip. We went to the Tahlequah. They actually went, I think, somewhere like the beach or something. But obviously,
Yeah,
where'd you go, Gray? Beach, right?
we went to Galveston. That
Galveston.
was
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
an unbelievable adventure.
Yeah, we went to Tahlequah because evidently our treasurer didn't do a great job at raising money that year, and it just happened to be me, I believe. I think I was a treasurer, so Shelley Prather and Wendy are probably not happy that I didn't raise enough money to go to Galveston. But that's that's in the past, I guess, right?
That's they'll forgive us.
No, I hope so. I hope so. All right, Tecumseh, Oklahoma, Macomb, Oklahoma, Pottawatomie County. Shout out to you. We are all family, no matter where we're at right now. I'm coming to you from Greensboro, North Carolina, where I live, and I super commute to Washington, D.C., where I work during the week. So, Greg, I want you to tell me about this brand and this group that you started here, man. I looked you up on Facebook. I don't have Facebook because of obvious government regulations, but my wife has it, and I looked it up and finishing a call. That's your thing, man. Tell me about it a little bit.
So there was a group of five of us that came together a few years ago, and we'd all been through our years of trauma and not getting help. And so there's, one of them is a police officer here in Shawnee. He's on the peer support team. We have a retired Oklahoma City fireman. We have a Tecumseh, Oklahoma police chief, and
Mhm.
we have the director of REACT EMS here in the Pottawatomie County area. And so our our relationships kind of intermingled because some of us went to school together way back when. Some of us go to church together. Some of us used to work cattle together. It was just kind of, but none of us really knew our own story. And so, uh, really, about 3.5, 4 years ago, I started pressing JR Kidney. I was like, hey, man, we got to do a seminar, or not a seminar. We have to do some type of a group to where we can come together as men and be able to tell our stories, because I know the way that I've had issues as far as hurting and just, not dealing with different trauma. Um, hear all of a sudden these guys come together, and it took us a little bit, man. We started this group, and it took a few meetings before we kind of all got settled in, was able to start sharing some of the stories that we've been through. And it's just continually grown. And so now, 2.5 years later, we're doing a seminar here in Shawnee, Oklahoma for first responders that is also for dispatchers, for active, for retired, for volunteer. We're also inviting their spouses to come aboard and be a part of this journey for 2 days. And we're going to have some incredible speakers there. Actually, one of my guest speakers is Mr. Dan Koss. And so we've decided that this is a way that we can start trying to help others heal. And through the benefits of trauma therapy and what's called EMDR, all of us went through that, and all of us have experienced some pretty cool stuff from it. And so our whole mission now, it's a men's group. It's free. We're not a LLC. We're not a nonprofit. We're just coming out to these fire stations, police stations, EMS, and we're just going out to the communities and being able to tell them the help that's available. We've also partnered with a group out of Edmond, Oklahoma called Warriors Rest Foundation. It's just an incredible group of first responders and trauma therapists that have come together and formed this company back in 2018. And so we really, as far as finishing the call, our job is to get out into the communities, allow these individuals to know what's available, and try to get them up to finishing the call or up to Warriors Rest. And they have an unbelievable network of trauma therapists here in Oklahoma to help in different areas depending on where you're at. So I'm excited about it. This is our first go with a seminar. And we're going to take it from there and see what we can do.
Hey man, that's awesome. What EMDR, right? EMDR, is that the name
Yes.
of the eye movement? I tell you what, man, I
Yep.
was in a course in Oklahoma City, law enforcement administrator course, and met up with a brother from Norma PD that was one of our instructors, and it was kind of funny because I recognized his last name, and I said, "Man," and he was from Tulsa, and he worked at Norman, and we started talking, and then I pulled him aside, at a break, and I said, "Man, I recognize your last name from Tulsa." And I said, "Is your dad X, Y, and Z?" And he said, "Yeah, man, that's my dad." And so I worked for his dad when I first got out of the Marine Corps at a juvenile detention center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And many, many years later, probably 30 years later, I meet up with his son, who's a police officer and former OU football player. I'm not going to mention any names. I don't have his permission. But he told me that the way he dealt with his trauma, he's having a difficult trauma with an auto accident where some kids were killed there in Norman, and having just a really, really, really tough time with that, man. And he told me, "Are you having issues from your events?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm still battling. It's a battle every day. I never win. I just wake up the next day and start again." And he told me that EMDR, he said he went to that. And he said, man, it was the best thing he had ever done. And it took care of a lot of his symptoms and his disease, and kind of got him in the right path. Good program, huh? Is there something you would recommend to first responders who's going through wellness issues and crisis management?
So whenever it comes to first responders or military or healthcare professionals, I think if you're dealing with a traumatic event, going to someone that is EMDR trained is going to be the first thing that you can do to help get your life back into order. And, we always say, well, we don't want to go to a coach. And if you're having some type of trauma, especially multiple traumas, like what you guys see in the fields that you're in, you don't want to go to a marriage and family counselor. You want to go with someone that's actually trained for this. And so for me, I didn't go to any type of treatment for 30 years. I thought, well, I don't need to go talk to someone, I already kind of know what's going on.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it taught me how to be able to refile any of the traumas that I've had. And whenever they come up, I can deal with them so much better. So after 30 years, I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And so I did. And so I went to this girl named Jill Newman in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And Jill is from Tecumseh. And so I've known her family for years. I had her grandmother as a patient on and off for several years. And so but I never knew how valuable that Jill was. And so whenever we did this EMDR, the first round, the first day, I went home that night and I slept, and I didn't have to chase it with substances or anything like that. I was actually able to go to sleep and not be concerned about the nightmares, the night sweats, everything that comes along with some of the stuff that we've seen. And so I would highly recommend it. And that's our journey, is to get the word out. And, not only are we wanting to focus on the first responders, but we also want their spouses to hear about it as well. Because if you're married to a first responder, you're going through some secondary traumas yourself. And so our whole deal is we want to help that individual and their family get healthy. And so it's been a pretty cool ride here lately.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We met Jill yesterday on a call, and Jill and her team will be. You may hear my dog barking in the background. He's a Yorkie. He barks all the time, man. He's barking at my wife. We've been married 20 years. He's been here for 10 of them. He still barks at it. It's crazy. Anyway,
So the dog has sided with the wife. Is that what
yeah,
you're trying to say?
I think the
Okay.
dog is warning me that my wife is nearby. I think that's what's going on. He's my early warning system. Yeah, that's what it is. But we met with Jill yesterday, and good folks up there at Warrior Rest, man. I really like them a lot. I'm not an expert by any means in the counseling field, so I've got a small part in this seminar. But man, I'm flying in from North Carolina. I'm excited to be there, and I want to just kind of talk to you about, why I was so excited when you reached out to me and asked me to join this seminar, because and I know, and we'll tell the folks, I've had my fair share of incidents, so over the years since I left beautiful Macomb, Oklahoma. So let me try to pull this out of our faces there. All right, so we're going to just talk about, this is one slide of my short slide deck, but I think it's an important slide, Greg, because it kind of just quickly goes through some of the things I've seen. And I've seen a lot more than that. I've seen stuff in the Marine Corps. I was a police officer in Yukon, Altus, Oklahoma, Yukon, Oklahoma, Putnam City Campus Police. I was an Air Force firefighter. I served over as a contractor firefighter overseas, so I saw a lot of the honor processions and I won't get into it, but clean out helicopters and things like that of our brothers and our sisters in arms having to be sent home in a proper manner after they gave their life for this beautiful country of ours. So this is just a few things that I've experienced here over the years, and that's why I was so excited to hear your call. This is why I try to expand this just a little. We may cover Greg's face up, and it's a beautiful face, but
No, it's not. It's a horrible face.
First one in there, that's Cameron. That's my nephew, beautiful young child, and my sister Edie Smith had two children. Chase and Colton. This is Chase. I'm sorry, Cameron is my grandson. I got too many kids going around. Chase and Colton. So this is Chase, and Chase was my sister's child, and Colton. Chase was the oldest one. And back in 1995, April 19th, I think you were a responder there. I know a doc over at Warriors Rest was a responder. We went through the Oklahoma City bombing, the Murrah bombing, and it was tough, man. And I went down as a first responder with the Yukon, Oklahoma Police Department, but I did have knowledge that the daycare had been hit, and my two nephews were in the daycare. So I went down and started rescue work with the other officers, and couldn't find Chase right away, but I found his brother Colton, and so Colton was obviously deceased there at the scene, and it was just a traumatic event, man. I showed up as a first responder, became a victim, and it was tough to handle. It was very tough to handle it and make that transition. I went ahead and went to that's little man right there. Colton, found him there at the scene. Later on in the day, I went to the medical examiner's office, and they brought a Polaroid picture for you younger folks. That's an old style picture back from the 90s and 80s. They went back in the back. They said, "We think we have him." They brought a picture back, taken over his sweet little face, and it was him. So I found both my nephews deceased within probably 5 hours of the bombing. And I had to tell my sister, and Greg, that I come from a little troubled background. I grew up in a boys' home in Norman, Oklahoma, or Noble, Oklahoma. And when I went to Macomb, I lived in a boys' home. I think most people know that, who was in Macomb. So I grew up in a boys' home. Since there when I was 11, had a lot of trauma in my life as a child, and riding home. And well, let me just say this: I wish I would have handled the way I told my sister her kids were dead better. I wish I had the training and the experience and the things that we have now, and that you're going to give at this seminar about counseling and grief counseling. But I didn't have it back then. I just had that Marine personality, come from a tough home. And I said the easiest way to tell someone that their kids are dead is probably just to tell them. And that's why I did it, Greg. I just went in and said, Edie, your kids are dead. That was it. No tears, no crying, no nothing. Turned around and walked out. And if I had a biggest regret in my life, other than these two kids not being in that daycare, it was that. I mean, I didn't consider her grief. I didn't consider her emotion. It was just too hard for me to stay in the room with her. And man, I regret that. The center picture there is the Capitol. 2021, God saw a reason to challenge me again and put me at the United States Capitol Police. And I was on duty emergency manager along with my partner on January 6th. And so you know how all that went through. I'm not going to cover all that, but I will tell you we lost some brothers there. A young lady was shot and killed there. I think we had one officer die from the effects of that. And we had, I think, 4 other brothers in Metro PD or Capitol Police who committed suicide shortly thereafter. So, tough day there. And, it's not over because 4 months later, United States Capitol, car runs into a barricade in April, same year, about 4 months after the takeover, the riot there, and another officer was killed. I was also the emergency manager on duty that day with my partner, and we worked that scene. So, just God really tested me over the years, my childhood, the boys' ranch, a divorce, and then these deaths, not to mention all the car accidents I've worked and gang shootings and Altus I've worked and all the other things that I've seen. And I'm so happy for you that you seem to be doing so well. I still struggle. I'll be honest with you. I still struggle a lot every day. And that's tough to know that you still are not getting to where you need to be. But I wake up every morning and I try just that much harder to get there. And when you reached out to me, I said, man, what a opportunity to meet up with you and with these folks that you're bringing and Warriors Rest, and really, be able to speak to some of these folks who are struggling and having some issues. And it's a struggle, isn't it? Isn't it, Greg? You think you're going to beat it, man, but I'm 55 years old and I haven't beat it yet, man.
It's amazing on how trauma just fogs the prefrontal cortex or the front part of your brain, and how even whenever you can start to have a decent day, that all of a sudden all hell breaks loose, and it just seems like that no matter what you do, no matter how much you try, it's hard to get that fog out of your mind. And so it sounds like, based on what you're telling me, not only did you have a horrible day at the bombing, but from that day on, being a family member, like you said, a victim, man, that's exactly the right word. But then everything else that developed in your career after that, those are what we call complex PTSD. That's where it's just multiple events of PTSD continuing to add up. And that's where it really starts to take a toll on a person. They feel like that they can't talk to anyone else. Their spouse will not understand. Their kids, they just kind of shut them out. And so these brothers and sisters that are first responders, really the only place that they feel comfortable is in their own fire station or their own police station, because they've got people around them that understand what they're going through. They don't have to talk about it, but they at least have guys and gals around them that they understand. And so, back in the 90s, you just didn't ever hear about going to therapy, and being in the military, this, you're just told, hey, suck it up. Mm-hmm. That's just part of it, Mm-hmm. But in the reality of it, there are so many ways to be able to help get that under control, and it doesn't have to take a long time. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing about what we're trying to do with this finishing the call, is that you start to learn that once I get all these little instances under control and I can all of a sudden start talking about it, then that's whenever the mission really starts. That's whenever people start listening a little bit closer and then they start sharing some of their testimonies of what they've been through. And I'm not just talking about responders, but I'm talking about patients or clients or just people out there. Once that once they know that what your story is and that you've shared it either publicly or with other people at other uh, seminars, people start to all of a sudden come to you and go, "Man, I want some of that.
Mhm.
How can I get a little bit healthier?" And that's when the door opens. And so to me, it's not a coincidence. It's never a coincidence. It's more of, hey, this is kind of the path that God put us in. And for me, um, you know, uh, your story is just incredible. Whenever the bombing happened, I remember seeing this beautiful redheaded girl on there that lost two kids, and I knew right then that was Edie. And she was a couple years younger than me. You're a
Mhm.
year older than me, so I didn't really know Edie that well. But I did not know your story until later on, and to know your involvement in on it. And so, man, I just thought, if we ever do this group, I want to have Danny come in, not only to help you through any traumas that you're still going through, but also uh, your walk is incredible, brother. And so, I, you see, even the dog thinks the dog saying amen.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. My wife must be close by. My warning's going off here. Yeah. It's been a crazy journey, man. I mean, three homegrown, I'm going to call them terrorist attacks. You call them what you want. Homegrown terrorist attacks from United States citizens killing their own people. Um, you know, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. It's just tough, and it's unusual that I would be in three of those. But you know what I think, Greg? I think that people are afraid, and I was afraid for many, many years of telling my colleagues that I was having issues, and I'm sure that they were afraid to tell me because back then, like you said, suck it up, Buttercup. You're a cop. You're a fireman. Do your job. This is your job. I was told that at the bombing scene by an officer when I asked if I could kiss Colton goodbye because I'll never see him again. And he said, "That's evidence. Don't contaminate the evidence. You should know better. You're a cop." It's
yeah,
that kind of mentality, and so we don't want to talk and we don't want to share with people. But I'm going to tell you a little story. All right,
okay,
the Reverend Most High Richard David Koss, my adopted father, was preaching at this little country church one time years ago when I was in the Boys Ranch, and he was preaching on hell, and he was going, man. It was his favorite sermon. It's our favorite sermon to listen to at the Boys Ranch, and I mean, he just gets into it and animated, and he's just getting scary. And he's giving this a sermon on hell, and is in the middle of a bad storm, and the lights went out, and it was altar call, and man, it's like everything just hit at the same time, and then a few minutes later, the lights came back on. I heard a sigh across the entire church. I was like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" So I looked up, and the preacher of the church, my brother, the preacher of the church, was on his knees accepting the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He had been a preacher there for 20 years, and he was on his
yeah,
knees accepting the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ at his own church and at his own altar. And do you think those people in the pews turned their back on him, fired him, told him to get out, tough it up? No. What did they do? They got out of the pews, they went down there, they got on their knees, they held hands, and they prayed with him. And they prayed with him,
yeah,
they supported him. And the quicker we understand as first responders that our friends, our colleagues, the people we work with, they will take us in with open arms. We should not be embarrassed to ask for help. They may be waiting for an opening to ask you for help, right? So we
right,
need to go and ask them for help. They may need help. We can all fellowship and heal together. And when we need a little help, when we need some professional help, we'll go out to organizations like the Warriors Rest and finishing the call. But I mean, man, this starts at the firehouse. This starts in the roll call room. This starts with us. We are the victims. We are the only victims in America that go to work and get paid to be re victimized every single day. And then on top of that, we have to put up the social media. We have to put up the disrespect on Facebook and all these other social media applications. And man, you think it's hard enough to, work a car scene with two children deceased or something like that. And then you have to see yourself on Facebook because someone thought the way you were doing your job was improper. And that also is PTSD. So we really need to learn that our support mechanism is the people around us in the roll call room, in the hospital. That's where we need to look first, and then we can go find professionals to help us. But the first thing we need to do is understand we are paid victims and we need help. No one can do what we do every single day. Do you agree with that, my friend?
Oh man, I'm 100% behind that. What's it like, Danny, as a police officer to go from maybe a fatality wreck, multiple people involved, to all of a sudden clearing that call, and then your next call is a drowning of a little girl at a someone's house? How do you even work through that? And what are some of your suggestions that you have for the ones that's out here listening to us?
I tell you what, we're taught to do, and we're taught to do. It's our job. We're professionals. We need to do our job, and just suck it up as part of the job and move on. But what you really do is you think, and I'm thinking of an incident now in Altus, Oklahoma, where our dispatcher got a call 2, 3 in the morning from a young lady, and she said, "I think my grandpa just killed himself. Y'all need to come over here." Gave the address. Maybe a prank call. Let me check it out. We'll send units over to check it out, whatever. So we went over there, rolled in, opened the door, girl sitting on her couch watching TV, flipping Skittles in her mouth or whatever she was doing, chilling. We're like, "What's going on?" She goes, "My grandpa's in there. I think he killed himself." We said, "Well, why do you think he killed himself?" And she said, "Because he said, I'm going to go in here and kill myself." And I said, "Okay. And did you go try to stop him?" She said, "No, it ain't my problem. It's his problem." So why do you think he killed himself? Well, I heard a gunshot. So we went and opened the door, and the gentleman had shot himself in the head with a shotgun. Killed himself. We worked that crime scene for many, many hours. That girl never got off the couch because that wasn't part of the crime scene, right? That was just a room there that we were working and was cordoned off. Left that call and wasn't, we cleared that call and got the body out of there. And it wasn't an hour later, man, we had a shooting in the southwest part of Altus, what they call Union Circle. And we had another fatality, man. I mean, we 2 dead people within probably 4 or 5 hours. And what can you do? I mean, I'll tell you what I did is I was on midnight shift. I went home, I drank a 12-pack of beer. That's what I did. And then I went to bed and slept all day. And when I got up, I picked my kid up from school in the afternoon, and I put my uniform in and I filed it away and went back and did it again the next night. And that's what we do. We do it every single night. But what I've learned since then, man, is you really gotta understand that to me, you have to understand that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry. It's okay to shed a tear. What has helped me the most over the years is not to look at each victim that's deceased as a victim. I have learned to look at everybody that was affected by that death as a victim. I want to serve the victims that are still alive. And I was told many years ago during the bombing that you got to remember the ones that are still here, right? You got to remember the ones that are victimized, that are not dead, that are still here. And by doing that, it really helps me handle these calls a little better because I understand that I have other people to serve. I lost this one. I couldn't save this one, but they have mom and dad and brother and sister and friends and family and church members that are tied to them that are also victims. So I never forget the victims who are still alive. And that has really got me over the top where I can be a functional everyday. I'm not a police officer anymore, administrator. And that is what I finally came to grips with is, I have to work harder to be better for the victims that are still alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, that's heavy.
It is. I mean, this line of work we're in is heavy, man. I mean, it's tough. It's heavy. And for 2 kids from Macomb, Oklahoma, and the chief there in Tecumseh Police, don't tell him that we used to cruise around his town and drink beer at the car wash, and I'm not going to name it. I'm not going to name the kid who was with me whenever we got busted and taken to the jail. But
He
yeah, that
he was
that was that.
yeah. JR was probably somewhere around at that time. Um, but I will not incriminate him either way. So JR and I, we actually go back since we were 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so we started kindergarten together. And so our relationship, it really is like brothers. And
Oh
it's so
man.
funny that with this group, whenever we have our meetings, we usually have meetings twice a month. And so whenever you get fire and police in the same building,
Competition, baby. Competition.
oh
Yep.
man, the
Mhm.
heckling begins,
Yep.
and it's like, oh,
Donuts and
God,
lazy boys, man, all day long, back and forth, ain't it?
they got some good stories. So,
They do.
but for us, um, it's a healing process to be able to do this finishing the call.
Mhm.
And so not only did we go to, our own counselors at different times within the last 5, 6 years, but now we get to kind of bring it back together as a group. And, whenever there's some bad calls going on here in the community, we usually will get a call. Hey, just kind of heads up, you've got a fire department, 10 miles east or west of Shawnee that's seen some bad stuff today.
Mhm.
And so we're always reaching out and seeing what we can do for especially in Pottawatomie County, for the first responders and different, you know, uh, it's one of those things to where we live it. This is what we live for. And so we're constantly getting these calls, and I'm so proud of these guys. So good people.
They are. They
Just
are. I probably have met them over the years. They're not ringing a bell. Dozier rings a bell with me for some reason. Maybe me and him have met in the past. But man, I'm looking forward to meeting all your team, man. I'm psyched about it. I'm flying in day after tomorrow, I think, right? Monday, Tuesday.
you're coming in, I
I'll
think,
be there
on Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'll be there on
On
Wednesday.
Wednesday, you're
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
in.
So I'm stoked, man.
Looking forward to it.
Hey, man, I'm excited. Let's just finish this off with giving me the time, place, and location. Let me tell you something, my friends. You're going to have food, fellowship, and healing for free. You can't get that everywhere. That is expensive. Most people in these big cities like New York and Chicago pay $500-$600 an hour for it. We're giving it to you for nothing. All right. If you're a
Yeah.
first responder in Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, if you're a student of mine at the university that I teach at, full of first responders, man. If you are within earshot or eyeshot of Oklahoma City, we're just down the road in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and we want you to be there. You need to be there, and it's going to change your life, my friend. And if we get one person, and that's all we get, and we make an effect on their life, then it's a success. But I would like to fill those pews, and I would like to ensure that the message gets out that we are all victims. We are professional victims, and the only people that care for us are our brothers and our sisters in arms and our warriors and the people that fight with us and on the street with us and in the fires with us. And without each other, we're nothing. Without each other, we're nothing. And when it's time to take it up a notch to warriors rest and professional counseling, we need to make that step. It's very, very important to you to try to make this seminar. Greg, finish this up, my brother.
Hey, this is September the 12th and 13th. So it's the end of this coming week. And so, man, we would love to see you at Shawnee, Oklahoma. It's Life Church Shawnee, just not even 4 blocks north of I-40 and Old 18, and on the east side of the road. Beautiful church there that we have. And so that's where we're going to have it. I've said this in one of my previous recordings, is that, this is at a church. But whenever you come to this place, you're going to hear some stories that are incredible. And we have several denominations within our group. So I appreciate Life Church allowing us to use this facility. We have some people that's donating some food. We have some extra, what we call a host team that's going to be there just to kind of help cater and, get someone a drink, or, be able to help them, show them where the bathroom is or whatever. And I really appreciate on how this team has come together, and we're looking forward to it. This is our first one. And so this will kind of set the stage on what we do from here on out. My whole goal is that hopefully we can start having these in other parts of the state. If you're in Shawnee, Oklahoma, it's not easy to come from Guyman or from Altus or from wherever. And so really what we're hoping to do is allow this to really touch some people's hearts, and whether it's couples, whether it's individuals, but to plant that seed and to be able to get them back into their own community and go, you know what, we can do this. There's no reason why we can't copy this for free and do this ourselves. And so that's where my guys are coming from. So I'm thankful not only to have a 40+ year relationship with you, but I'm also thankful that you would take the time out of everything that you do, and a professor at Columbia, up at Washington, D.C., there with all the Supreme Court justices, and that you would come to Shawnee, Oklahoma and do this with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey man, love to do it. Love to do it. Like you said, I was just caveat on this is a live church, a Muslim, Jewish, Mormon, Baptist, Mennonite. It doesn't matter. Faith is faith, and you have to have faith to heal. And whatever God you believe in is a God that you need to believe in, and that's your faith. And we love you for it, and you love us for being Baptist or Pentecostal. And hey, we're all going to get in that church, and it's going to be the neutral zone, and we're there to heal, and we're there to make a difference in your life, and you are there to receive a message that may change your life. So do not let Greg and I are both Christians, so you may have heard that here on this podcast, but basically I'm just saying, everyone's welcome. Do not come because you think, oh, it's at a Christian church. My friends, that will be the biggest mistake you make. We are all faithful people that serve a God, and we all need to meet up there. So, brother, I love you. I look forward to seeing you in person, man. And this has been fun, and I've really enjoyed it. You want to give out your socials so that folks can find you?
Yeah, so you can get me at Greg Clark on Facebook. You can follow us on Finishing the Call. We have a Facebook page there. We also have a website at finishingthecall.com. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear some reports after this on how maybe this seminar has touched your life. And Danny, I shared with you a text message of a girl that sent me a text and said, hey, when can we start hearing some more about this stuff on Facebook? And she's not even a responder. She was just like, I need to hear more stuff about mental health, how to be able to cope with some of the things that I'm going through. So I think this is just going to be the start. And hopefully you and I can get back on here and do a few podcasts or something to continue to touch these people.
Yeah, man, I agree. My socials, I don't have socials because I work for the government, so they're not real keen on that. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Civil Security, Dr. Daniel Koss, and you can find me on YouTube. So if you see this on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, speak to Greg on Facebook and the other socials. And man, if there's an interest out there, Greg and his team and myself will be on here weekly, putting out these videos, doing Facebook Live, doing YouTube Live, whatever it takes to reach the masses, all right? We're going to do it. We're dedicated. We're ready to get after it. If you are in Oklahoma, last time I'm going to say it, next Thursday and Friday, live church, Shawnee, Oklahoma. Come and get a blessing. It's for free food, free fellowship, free healing. And I want to thank Greg Clark. I want to thank Finishing the Call. And that's it for me, brother. I love you, man. Be good.
I love you too. We'll see you on Thursday.
Yes, sir. See y'all.
All right.